our questions. I don't see our people with lunch there. So we'll take Honorable Lonzi, I'll start with you. You will decide which institution, which entity in the institution you want to ask questions. But I think it was Nelson Mandela. I think on one of your presentation, you could not get to it. But in your presentation, there's a point that you make, Vice Chancellor, that I want you to bear in mind that they wrote to, on their presentation, they say that there's racial discrimination on paying salaries at that institution. So there's no equal pay for equal job. So it's an allegation that I want you to come to that part because it's there on part of their presentation. Honorable Lonzi, when you ask a question, just ask one question to specific and let's give them an opportunity to respond. I want us to finish early today. So we'll time each other. I don't know. Let's go, Honorable Lonzi.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I'll try my best because yesterday you gave us 6 minutes for one institution, and now we've got two. So I'm just going to quickly rush through these questions. The first one is that Nelson Mandela University, of course, you experienced some. Thank you very much for your presentation, Chair of Council, Deputy Chair, VC, and the Executive. But I believe you've been experiencing a lot of student protest. And as the committee, we did get some questions regarding the private security on campus. So probably wonder, what is the budget on private security on campus? How much do you spend as a university on private security? And I wonder if you'd find that actually the money that you spend trying to stop or fight protest action from students, you were to actually take that money, it could resolve some of the issues that the students are fighting for. Then to jump to the next one, do you withhold?
No. Let's allow them to answer. How much are they
you want
spending?
One by one? Oh, okay.
How much are you spending on private security? I don't know who's going to answer VC. There's a mic.
Thank you, Chair. I do not have that figure with me at the moment because when we budget for security, we budget for security like digital, person, surveillance, green routes, and so on. So I think that figure exists in this granular way, and then I would not want to hazard a guess, but it's information that we prepared to supply. I don't know if my colleague in finance has got a better sense than me. If I can ask him, Chair. My understanding is that that figure, as it is, we would not have it. And also what I wanted to say on the spot, another thing is that the private security is not the same because it's not a permanent arrangement of the university. So we actually increase or decrease private security based on the needs of the university at a certain time. Thank you so much, Chair.
Yeah, maybe let's also not put the finance person on the spot. Maybe they don't have an answer.
Yeah.
So you'll give it to us in writing.
Thank you.
Just note it that we will give it in writing.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. The following one, Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
All right. Thank you, Chair. The university, considering the student debt, which I think has risen from 376 to 343 to 376. I've got a question about irrecoverable debt. I think in any institution, whether it's a business, corporate, or even well-run public institution, you do have some debt which you characterize as bad debt. In other words, you've held it for 20 years or whatever. I'm just making an example, 5 years, 3 years. Do you have students who you'd consider as being part of bad debt? And if that is the case, why don't we write off that debt, give the students their qualifications so that they can be able to go and seek employment opportunities? And then link to that question again, Chair, quickly. Leave the aspect of bad debt. Now I want to get the opinion of the university on this question, which I want to believe is a very, it's an easy question that all of us should be able to answer like simple common sense. If I am a student in South Africa, I finish all my academic requirements. In other words, I'm supposed to graduate. And then when I'm about to graduate, I owe the institution money. And then the institution then says to me, I am going to withhold your qualification because you owe me money. And I want you to pay me fees. Now let's argue that the student wants to pay you the money that they owe you. How are you expecting them to pay you that money if they can't get their qualification and go seek employment opportunities? Why don't you say, my bra, we want you to pay us your money, take your degree, go and look for a job, and maybe we work out some form of a payment plan. I know we're doing one by one, Chair. I don't know how we'll...
Let's go. Nelson Mandela.
Thank you, Chairman. I will also want to perhaps mobilize the support of my colleagues, but clearly we do have a debt write-off policy. We do write off debts that are reasonably unrecoverable. And then for students that owe the university at the time of graduation, when they seek employment, we engage with that conversation, and then we avail their academic record to prospective employers, and then so that the students, the employer would be clear that the student have finished, they've completed their qualification, but we do not release the certificate. And I suppose that is there's something that I cannot pronounce on it on my own because it is the policy of the university. But the prospective employer would know everything about the quality and the facts around that qualification of the student, because it will be given to the prospective employer. Thank you so much.
Who's assisting you on the other question?
Michael, the Executive Director of Finance. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Members. So in terms of the student debt, it was mentioned that the balance at the end of 2023 per the financials, the audited financials, was 376 million. 221 million of that is impaired or provided for as potentially bad. So it's quite a significant portion, that is provided for. Thank you.
VC, you say you do give them a transcript, and I understand why you'll not, give a degree maybe as a certificate. Maybe, if I were to put myself in your shoes, I think I'd understand. But do you allow them to graduate? And then maybe keep only the certificate, but are you allowing them to graduate?
Yes, Chairperson, we do.
Okay. Next, Honourable Lonzi.
No, thanks. I'll do the follow-up maybe with UMP on this question of withholding of degrees. I don't want to dwell on one point. There was a question that was raised about Labour not being represented on council. Can you please clarify that? Because I think according to the Higher Education Act, it may not necessarily be specific that unions must be represented, but it says employees must be represented, both academic staff and non-academic staff. So can you please clarify that for me?
Yes, indeed. Through you, Chairperson, Honourable Member, we do not have the representation of the seat of a union, but we have a representation of workers, non-academic workers, which are called PAS. They send a delegate to council, and then academic staff send a delegate to council. Both those positions are filled, honourable members. Thank you, Chair.
Second last question, sorry, Chair. I believe the Nelson Mandela University benefited a lot from the infrastructure grant from government, especially when it came to building some of your buildings and student accommodation. Now, I've got a question. Have you got student accommodation that charges higher than the National Student Financial Aid Scheme cap? And if that is the case, why would government support you to build student accommodation and then you still charge beyond what NSFAS is able to pay for in that particular student accommodation. I'm interested in the reasoning behind that, because if maybe you are talking private, and we also problematize the private accommodation providers, by the way, but now I'm interested at a university point of view. If this is a university building, on top of it being a university building, government also helps to build it. And the intention of it is not to make profit. Really, it's not the primary objective. Yes, you want it to be sustainable, but you're not running it's not a profit-making, maximizing business. So why would an institutional student accommodation building want to charge our students more than what NSFAS can provide, which I believe is 45,000 or could be 50,000, I don't know.
Chairperson, I just want to say, Honourable Member, that the matter of caps has been a new development, if you recall. So I don't want to speak out of turn, but my recollection was that we aligned the on-campus accommodation with the cap so that we do not exclude our students. But I would like Mike to actually confirm that, our CFO. Thank you very much.
Mike?
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair and Honourable Member. So, correct, our off-campus, we aligned to the caps, being the 50,000, the current cap. What we also have aligned to is the fee compact that has been agreed to for the last number of years, I think since 2016, in terms of agreeing with that fee compact. We do have certain accommodation that's lagged quite significantly behind the cap, and then our new infrastructure that is around the cap or slightly more than the cap. But we have obviously stuck to the fee compact increases as agreed from the sector on an annual basis. Thank you, Chair.
So in simple terms, you are saying at your institution, there's no NSFAS funded student who stays in a university-owned accommodation who will have a shortfall at the end of the year, in simple terms.
Chair, there are some on campus that are slightly above the cap. Again, I think we could provide that information, the granular information, together with the first question.
Another question from Honourable Lonzi was, why would the university have on-campus university-owned accommodation that creates that barrier for NSFAS students? Remember, when you are an NSFAS student, the assumption is that you don't have anybody who will help you. You are literally on your own. You are a SASSA beneficiary. So NSFAS is paying for you because of that. So what is the rationale behind those ones that you are saying you do have, or you don't, on those ones you are strictly not taking NSFAS funded students?
Chair, forgive me if perhaps I don't give the direct answer, and then we are prepared to I'm attempting to respond to this. If we're not giving the full answer, we will provide the facts soon. But what I want to say is that our university have got accommodation that fall below the cap, and then it has got accommodation which is new, which is the combination of the loan that we took as the university from the banks, and then and part funded by the department. So what we charge per room for those that we are paying the loan off, we obviously need to cover, because accommodation is not part of the mainline budget of the university. Student accommodation has to fund itself. So everyone that is employed in student housing, we need to match their salaries and operations against what student accommodation make. That has been the model of the university. So we would not, in the new accommodation, which is not fully funded, our newest stock is partially funded by the state and partially loan amounts. So we need to charge according to the sustainability measures of that of that accommodation. So you would find then that some of the students that fall within the cap, obviously, if we were to move them to the newest accommodation, they would have to pay below what we need to earn in order to pay the banks back. So in terms of numbers, and I'm not saying that students that are NSFAS students, they do not live in new accommodation, but I just think that we need to provide a more granular response to this question because it's a little bit more complicated. Thank you very much.
Yeah. DG, when he started, he said, you guys have reserves of around 5 billion. And, you know, and this is not necessarily an NMU isolated problem. But the issue here, VC, is that you build student accommodation that costs 600 million. The department gives you 300 million. The reason why they give you 300 million is to subsidize the poor. It comes from government. It's a responsibility of government to make education accessible, to including those who can afford. So the department gives you 300 million, says, let's build student accommodation. And the formula that the university, the one that we've just explained, sorry, it's problematic to me because the university looks at this project from a banking point of view, that I must charge, well, I'm charged 3% or 13% from the 300 million that I've borrowed from whichever bank, and I'm going to pay it in 6 years. I would have, the 300 million will be 420 million that I'm going to pay back. If I charge the cap, it's going to take me 6 years to pay off the bank whilst I'm fulfilling my other duties, paying staff, paying water and lights, tax and rates, whatever the case may be. Why do we want to charge this? Education, the model that you guys are using, you're making it a commodity, and it's not an NMU isolated problem. Universities, we are making education a commodity. It's something that somebody with something must get. And that's where the problem is. It's no longer a social good. So instead of paying off the loan in 9 years, and we'll still have that accommodation if we are confident that we have hired competent people to build it, it will be there for 100 years. But we will pay this loan in 9 years instead of wanting to pay it in 3 years and making somebody else somewhere who does not have anything not access this accommodation or go and borrow. The grandmother must go take out her ID, go to Mashonesa at the beginning of the year because you don't allow them to register because they do have a shortfall of 9,000 or 8,000 at the end of the year. So it's a conversation I think we must have in the sector that education is a social good. Let's not treat it as a commodity. And if you pay off the remainder of the loan, if we are going to do the way you are doing it, then let's look at the co-funding partner, which is the department, which is government. What then are they getting in return? So let's also, because if we are going to say, no, I don't want to bear the brand of, paying off the bank in 9 years. The money that then you are going to make as an institution after paying off the loan, because if you are able to sustain it in 6 years, then you pay off the loan money that you're going to pay, they will now become profit. Then let's have a business model that will say whatever profit we make out of this thing, where does it go? Does it go towards paying off the debt that we have or the student have? And let's look at it from a social look. You don't have to answer it, and I'm not really directing it at you alone. It's a conversation that I think we must have in the sector, including everybody else, USAF, department, ministry, ourselves, SAUS, SAFET, everybody. It's a conversation that we must have at DG, because and I'm not criticizing you, VC, but I'm just saying it's something that happens across, and I don't think it's right. I don't think we'll fix it now, but it's something that we must start those conversations so that we're able to close it. Honorable Lonzi, are you moving to UMP? No, move to UMP.
Sorry, Chair. I've just got one more of NMU, but if they don't have the answer, I think they can send us the written responses. How many students have still not registered? And of the students who have not registered, how many of them are as a result of NSFAS not finalizing and sending their funding lists? And then of those students who are not registered, how many of them are academically eligible to continue studying? And then the question I'd ask is, if a student is academically eligible to continue studying, why would we not want them to register because they've got debts? Because already we've established here that some of these debts are actually created by us, the institutions, because these are NSFAS students. NSFAS says to them, I'm only going to give you 4,500 Rand for accommodation. And then us as a university, because we want to have a good balance sheet, we say that we're going to charge you 5,000. And then next year, this student now has a debt of 5,000 times 10 months. And then we say to the student, you can't register, classes have already started, but this student is a good student academically. Do we see the problem that we're creating in this practice? So I think that's my last on NMU. I don't know if you want to come in, VC, or you'll also share it in the written replies.
I think the detail, Chair, is not totally shareable because the numbers change all the time. However, we have the concession system that we talked about, where students that have debt within certain parameters are allowed to register against that debt, and then so that they do not have to put down payment first before they start attending classes. And Chair, I would like to just ask my colleagues around the numbers of registration. The registrar is here, and the DVC for learning and teaching, if they want to give the actual numbers of registration at the moment. What we cannot provide factual information on, we are actually very prepared to submit that in writing. But the concession system was created by the university to make sure that the academically deserving students that are about to finish their qualifications are not kept outside. So even though concessions is not the exchanging of money, it is actually saying that if you owe within this parameter, which is determined, and then you can come in and register without having to pay a down payment, but you still owe the university, but that does not keep you out of the academic program. So we have that in place, and I think it has been helpful both for students and for us to make sure that our academic deserving students are not left behind, and then they finish, and then we can also get subsidy and increase our throughput rates in that regard. Chair, can I just ask if the registrar wants to respond on the changing numbers around registration? Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Chair and Honourable Lonzi, for that question. As of this morning, we've registered 31,462 students. And of course, if I should check this evening, that as the Vice Chancellor has indicated, that number would have changed. Our first-time entry registrations are at 8,649. And that, Honourable Chair, is 1% above our target and our plan. So I thought I'll just mention that. Thank you, Chair.